Hello? Yes, thank you for having me here. Never been to Brazil, and I'm excited. It's been exceptionally welcoming here. I feel right at home with other Python developers. Strangely enough, I'm not here to talk about Python specifically. I'm here today to talk about developer training. And what I mean by that is, how do we, as developers, get better at what we do? I mean, that's why most of you probably came to this conference. You want to get better at your craft, find new ways to do things, and interact with people doing something similar, and learn from them. As much as I want to at times, I find it very difficult to separate the person I am at work from the person I am at home. One constantly impacts the other. I have a bad day at work. I come home angry. I feel great at home, and work seems to go smoothly. So when I think about Python, and when I think about getting better at something, I always think about running. If you've spent more than, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds with me here, you probably know I'm an avid runner and a triathlete. Strangely, I actually started working with Python about the same time I started seriously running. And they're forever linked in my brain. I can't separate again. Python and running, to me, they go together. In my time as a Python developer, I've had successes and failures. I've had successes and failures as a runner. We're going to talk about both today. So I'm here to help you build a training plan, help you think about how you learn, and improve the way you learn, and improve yourself as a developer. Yeah, to make it clear, I really, really love running. It borders on addiction. And by borders, I mean it's crossed over into addiction, and it's almost not an addiction. One of the things I love about running is the way it makes me feel. I feel free. I feel in control. I know how to push my body to its limit, and I know how to back off. I know how to get better. There's entire sports sciences dedicated to how our body adapts to physical stress, how we grow our muscles, how to eat. And yet, with all of that research, we still each must learn as individuals how to be better runners. So running is this journey of self-discovery. How do I run? How can I get better? And again, it's the same for me about being a better programmer. There are tons of books, tons of resources. You ask anyone and they'll tell you the best way to become a better developer. But there's no perfect way that works for all of us. There's similarities, and we each must learn. We each must learn our own path, and we must learn from each other. But it's again a self-discovery to become a better developer. It all starts with a goal. The process of getting better at anything, to me, begins with having something in mind that you want to do. That goal is the definition of better. When I set out for a new goal, I write it down. This is one I wrote down, and I taped it next to my bike. And every time I got on the bike, I read it. And I remembered why I was suffering inside riding a bike. I didn't reach this goal, not even close. It was far too aggressive, and I learned from that as well. But I write it down, and I talk about it, and it makes it real. And I don't just think about the goal, I think about all the things I need to do to reach this goal. To reach this goal, I needed to bike faster than I've ever biked, and I needed to swim faster than I'd ever swam. and I needed to run faster than I'd ever run, and that's why it was a terrible goal. So, you need to think about how realistic it is in the time frame that you have. So in these goals that we define for ourselves, it may be learn a new language, learn a new library, build a thing, open source a project, contribute to a project, talk at a conference, write a blog post, something real. We define our own criteria for success. And that makes it both easy and hard. It makes it easy because I say what success is. I can make it as easy or as hard as I want. So it's on me to challenge myself, to push myself, and get a goal that's both challenging, like this one, but realistic. You should have SMART goals. And SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Those are the goals I set in my running, and those are the goals I set as a developer. I say, I'm gonna run this pace at this race. It's 6 months from now. I'm gonna run a 3-hour marathon. I'm gonna run a 20-minute 5K. I'm going to finish this other race. The same thing for programming. I'm going to write another blog post about Django. I'm going to keynote a conference. I define the success of my goals only in terms of things that I can control. I don't care about where I place. I only care about where my effort. This allows me to measure along the way whether I'm being successful. I can't know how fast others will run, so saying I want to be first is not a good goal. When developing new skills, you need the same approach. You should not be comparing yourselves to others. You should be better than yourself. That is your only competition as a developer. I don't want to be a better programmer than any of you. I want to be better than the programmer I was a year ago, 2 years ago. I want to look at the code that I wrote a year ago and laugh at the fool that wrote this terrible code, and now I'm so much better than I was. That is the only thing that I care about. Being better than myself, focusing on things that I can do, than measurable against myself. There's this saying, and I love it, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So with this specific, measurable, time-bound goal, you need to build a plan around what you're gonna do. So, I wanna learn a new library. I want to learn a new framework. I want to learn Rust. I want to learn Go. I want to play with Python 3. What are you going to do to learn it? How will you know that you've learned it? Are you going to build a thing? What do you want to get out of it? Why are you learning this thing? Is it, I want to learn async IO to use it in my next project? Is it, I want to learn Django so I can get a job? Is it just for fun? I want to play? All of those are great goals, but you should think about the why. It frames everything. You don't forget about the why because you don't want your goal to become inflated as you approach your goal. When things aren't going well, or you're near the end, you should reflect back on this why. Why did I start to learn Django? Why? And for instance, if you started to learn Flask for fun, and it's not fun, you should stop. You're done. If you started learning Flask for fun, and it is fun, and now you think, I want to get a job writing Flask. You need to start again. You need a new goal. You say, I'm going to learn Flask to get a job. The way you learn Flask for fun is very different from the way you learn Flask to get a job, because the skills that you need for fun are very different from the skills that you need as a job. You probably ignored testing or best practices, ignored dry, all these things that you're doing just to hack something together, very different. And at the same time, if you're learning something for fun, you can ignore those things. That's great, you should. This is something that plagues runners constantly, triathletes even more. People train the way they want to train, and they don't train the way they need to train. And what I mean by that is that you have to admit you have weaknesses. You have to identify your weaknesses, and you have to work against those. You will never get better doing the things that are comfortable. You have to step outside your comfort level. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect to get better. You have to push. When you build a plan around addressing weakness. If you aren't getting the opportunities to push in your current job, your current role, your current situation, you have to sometimes manufacture these if this goal is important to you outside of your larger life. So what kinds of things do we need to work on as developers? What areas can we improve? What areas can we be weak? Take this back to running for a second. Running a marathon is not easy, but it is exceedingly simple. You start running and you don't stop until you get to the finish. The kinds of challenges that you'll face running a marathon are exceedingly predictable. You know the distance. You probably know the weather. You know the course. You know how fast you can run. If there's going to be hills, all of these things you can know and prepare for completely in advance. Compared to running a marathon, programming is a million times more complicated. Software development is about knowledge acquisition. That means you don't know everything you need to know to finish a project when you start it. There are so many challenges you don't even know you will face at the beginning. You have to build a huge skill set of adapting to challenges as they come. You have to work and you have to learn constantly. Some sort of foundational skills, these like base skills. A runner would call these like putting in junk miles. I don't really like the phrase junk miles, I like base miles. You know, building this core skills. Language idioms, design patterns, data modeling, translating human requirements into code. These come with practice, these come with experience. You can accelerate some of this learning by learning from others' experience instead of just failing on your own. Python is a very stable language, but it is still evolving, and you must work to keep up. You must keep this base set of skills going. Async I/O added in 3.4. New keywords, async, await, 3.5. Did you know that Python 3.6, they're adding yet another string formatting method? You have to learn all these things. And the technologies we use are changing constantly underneath us, and we must continue to push. So some activities to sort of get this base. Learn a new framework or tool. See how they do things. Update a major dependency. attend a conference or a user group, follow a tech blog or a news aggregator. These aren't crazy things. These are things you're probably already doing. Just don't think about what this is doing for you necessarily. Developers, as I said, need to be flexible. Not flexible in the same way that this runner needs to be flexible. This is not me. Developers need to be creative. Creative enough to solve problems that have never been solved before. Automate business processes that have never been automated before. They need to find solutions that fit budgets, that fit time constraints, all types of strange conditions and challenges. We have to constantly, again, adapt as we learn, and adapt to meet new requirements as they come up. This sometimes means abandoning things that were once thought best practice. You can't, again, constantly assume that best practice today will be best practice for eternity. So activities to gain more flexibility are, start a brand new project. Start from scratch, rebuild, reinvent a wheel. For fun. Just do it. Go crazy, break every rule in Pepe, break every rule you've ever heard, just to see why those rules exist, which ones can be broken, which ones should be broken. Prototype something. All of these will help you develop creativity and flexibility. And you're probably already doing them. Maintenance. It does not take a particularly skilled programmer to build something that works, but it takes a very skilled one, and probably more than one, to build something that really lasts, and lasts the test of time. Maintaining a project for years is difficult, and it's a whole different challenge from writing something from scratch. If you've never maintained a project before, it's fascinating, terrible, and fantastic. It's all of these things that it's hard to replicate in any other sense. If you've maintained something, when you start a new project, you have a whole new set of concerns that you never thought of before. You're wary of weird dependencies. You care about the test suite from the very beginning. You track things like test coverage obsessively. You get a whole new perspective in this challenge of maintaining. So those of you currently maintaining a project, kudos to you. You're building a fantastic set of skills that others will have to struggle to learn on their own. Things that help you learn how to maintain software are things like adding test coverage to an existing project, find and delete code. Deleting code is the single most satisfying thing I think I'll ever do as a developer. I love to go and find and delete code. It's free test coverage. Deleted code is always covered. Refactor a project, or port something off a dependency, or port something to a new framework. These will help you build these skills to build software that lasts, a software that other developers can work with you and maintain. Software developers need humility. I didn't pick on some random kid on the internet. This is my daughter, Kennedy, at a race. She was really struggling. For me, programming is a constant exercise in being wrong. I'm wrong all the time about what users want, about what clients want, about where bottlenecks are, or the fastest way to do something. The sooner I accept, and the sooner everyone accepts that you're probably wrong, We can get to the next thing. You admit you're human, admit you're imperfect, admit you need feedback, begin to crave feedback. Get something in front of the user and say, what do you think? Put your code up for code review and ask your fellow developers, can this be better? How can it be better? Put your pride away and crave feedback. To build your humility, I suggest taking part in a code review if you don't already do them now. Contribute to an open source project and get feedback from contributors and maintainers. We all must learn that none of us are these rock star programmers. This is a myth. There's no one person developing huge applications. It takes a team working together, not owning the code, maintaining it together. So separate yourself from the work and focus on delivering beautiful code for the user. We need empathy. Again, programming is not a solitary activity. Not to me, it's not. If I want to build something real, I need other people. I need people working with me. If nothing else, I need other people using the thing that I'm building. So I need to see things from their perspective, from the user's perspective. I need to see things, how will other developers see this code? Can they read it? Can they understand it? Is it too clever for them? Am I being needlessly clever? What about the ops people that have to deploy this application? What's their struggle? How hard am I making their lives? And in an open source sense, you need to think about the people who want to use your software, the people who may want to contribute with you. How are you reaching them? What have you done to reach out to your fellow developer, reach out to your users, and feel their experience? If you want to build empathy, write some documentation. Go through and explain in words, not in code, write in words, how do you use this software? How do you contribute to this project? Teaching others builds empathy. Seeing it for the first time, hearing their experiences, so on. It's a rewarding experience, and you learn so much when you have to explain it. And people ask, why? Why should I do it like this? And then you think, I don't know why. Or you just keep going down the line. Why? 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 You build knowledge by sharing. Teaching is a fantastic way to learn. We all must build empathy. The easiest way to have a bad race is to not respect the challenge and to not put in the work it takes. It takes work every day. A marathon does not care that you finished a marathon a year ago. It's still going to be just as hard. You have to put in the same work to get the same results. You probably have to put in more work to get the same results. Champions have collapsed in the last mile, and if you think it can't happen to you, you're kidding yourself. As we grow to be more experienced developers, we can't take for granted how difficult this work is. And we do it all the time. I'm just as guilty as anyone. I've said things like, it's just another blog. It's just another CMS, a content management system. Content management systems are a pain. They are hard to build. I shouldn't say just. These are challenging. I don't want to put down my fellow developers struggling to write a blog, write their first blog. That work is hard. You make choices. You have to learn. So respect the challenge. Every project, in my experience, there's a twist. I think it's just another Django site, but there's always something. And I have to respect that there's going to be something. I have to respect that every day I have to come in and put in the work. Put in the work to learn and be better and do things, not just copying and pasting code day to day, but building new software better each time. If you don't continue to work on your skills, you'll find them fading. Trust this process. It takes a long time. It's hard to see results. Learning new things takes months. It takes years. Developing skills is so slow. Day to day, it's hard to see. But you're doing it. Every day, you're getting better. When you go to run a marathon, you typically only run 20 miles as your longest run. That means on race day, you run 10 kilometers more on race day than you've ever run. For a first-time marathoner, this is a terrifying experience. This idea that I'm going to do something beyond what I've ever done, beyond anything that I've trained to do. This picture is me finishing a full iron distance. That's a 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer bike, and a full marathon, 42 kilometers. You can see it took me 12 and a half hours. The longest day I'd ever trained, 7 hours. I had to trust the process, and I had doubt. On the starting line, I wasn't sure I could finish. But I stuck to the plan. I knew others had done this in front of me. Others had done this plan. Others had done this race. And you start, and your body knows what to do. I finished this race just before Julia Elman and I started working on Lightweight Django. We had signed the contract, and I said, I can't write a single letter until I finish this race. Everything I had was going into this race. But I finished this race, and we started working on Lightweight Django. And it was, again, I faced this same challenge. I've never written a book before. That was part of why we wanted to write one. I didn't know if I could do it. But we laid it out, chapter by chapter. When are we going to get it done? How much time is it going to take? When you break it down by chapters into months, pages into weeks, it all started to seem reasonable. I thought I can do a couple hours at night during the week. I can do one big Saturday, and I can have Sunday off. This is just like how I trained for this race. And that is how we broke it down. Once you've identified what you need to improve, you just build a plan and you stay with it. Check yourself, test yourself, and you'll be amazed what you can do just incrementally working day by day. But listen to your body. Running is notorious for causing injuries because your muscles rebound faster than your joints. So it's really easy to push too hard, too soon, and get yourself hurt. So runners often say, listen to your body when it whispers, and you'll never have to hear it scream. For developers, burnout is real. And it's devastating. And especially when it comes to open source, we can get consumed by what we're doing, the pressure, the feeling of being overworked. What I'm talking about here, I'm talking about getting better slowly. I'm not talking about putting in 80, 100-hour weeks. I'm talking about building a plan that's reasonable with your life, the rest of your life. Things you do outside of work, outside of school. When that kind of stress is high, it's probably not a good time to start a new project, or talk at a conference, or join a new meetup group, or learn a new language. If you have a wedding, a baby, all these things on the way. When I have a big race, development after work stops. That's fine. I accept that. You gotta balance what you want to do with how reasonable it is for you to do it in the time that you have. Those things that you want to do will be there when you have the time. Don't bury yourself in work. Along this journey, this self-discovery of how to be better, how to be your best self, you're going to have moments of doubt. Sometimes moments of crushing, soul-ending doubt. Everyone has them. I'm here to tell you it's normal. I'm not new to racing. I'm not new to speaking at conferences. But when I'm at that starting line, I'm nervous. Before that first slide turns, I'm shaking. The nerves are there because I'm here to take myself to a place I've never been. That terrible, sick feeling tells me I'm ready for this challenge. It means I'm doing something right. It means I'm pushing. I calm my fears when I think back to all those quiet mornings when it's just me. I think about the 1,000 times I gave this talk to the quiet nothingness in my morning run. And how I went over these slides again and again. Just focus on getting better. This work that you put in, no one can take away. You're doing it right now. You're here at this conference. You're working on getting better. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't, that you're not enough, that this isn't enough. Because I'm here to tell you, you're doing the work and you belong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Pessoal, alguém tem alguma dúvida para o Mark, alguma coisa? A gente traduz aqui a pergunta de vocês para ele, para ele entender, e depois traduz a resposta, se alguém quiser perguntar alguma coisa para ele.
Hi, Mark. You talked a lot about training, but you didn't give any specific hints. Like, what do you think is important to become a better developer? Like, learn a language a year, or learn a language every 6 months and read some books and, I don't know, work on an open source project?
I guess I don't think of it in terms of specific skills. Again, I think that we need sort of this base set of knowledge. I think we need to be able to build maintainable software. I think we need to have empathy and we need to have humility for our work. So what do I think is important? It doesn't matter what I think is important. I guess what you need to work on is where you feel like you're not, like where you lack, I guess. So the specifics of how do you all get better, I can't tell you. I don't know. I think, again, we have to look into ourselves and we have to say, I've never worked with another developer before. I need to build that skill set. I want to know how to work on a team. Or I've never maintained a large project before. Where can I get that experience? I think there's a variety of ways to do it. I don't think there's any one true way. I think everyone learns different and everyone has different needs. So you have to reflect on yourself and say, where do I want to get better? And find something that you think will help you get better in the way you want to get better. So, like, you can learn another language, but why? What do you think that language is going to teach you? There are good reasons to learn another language. For instance, you may say, I've never worked with a functional language before, and I want to learn how a functional programming language paradigm is different from Python. But I don't think there would be the same value in saying, I want to learn Ruby, because I already know Python, they're too similar. Like, what am I going to learn necessarily from Ruby? Not to pick on Ruby. But I think to say you should learn another language, no, you should have a reason for learning the language. I want to learn Rust because I think Rust is cool and I want to build extensions to Python with Rust. Or I want to learn Go because it has a different concurrency model. Yeah, the thing, you can't make up tasks for yourself. Everything you do needs purpose. It needs direction. I think that's what I was trying to say.
Mais alguma pergunta, pessoal? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for being here.